Hi everyone and welcome back. So what we are going to do is, as we have decided that we are going to use GitHub Actions and GitLab CI. These are the two platforms we are going to use. So first of all, we need to clone our code to GitLab also. So GitLab and GitHub. Now we also need to understand some basic concept like, okay, we have a GitLab, GitHub, and maybe you have some another version control system like Bitbucket. Then how can you manage all these different version control system and push your code to those repositories? Because what we do is we do SSH setup so that you can copy SSH public keys to these different portals, GitLab, GitHub. So how can you manage that? So whenever you do git clone from Bitbucket, git clone from GitLab, git clone from GitHub, it should be able to identify your private SSH keys, and then SSH can happen. So first of all, we are going to take a look onto that, how you can manage the multiple GitHub profiles together. Once you understand that, then we will push the code to GitLab and GitHub and we will proceed further. Let's say you are using GitHub for your personal projects and you have a GitLab for your organizational project, and you are using Bitbucket for some third party. And in that case, because you are managing all these repositories, how you can manage the SSH connections to all these repository? Obviously you are not going to put the same SSH private key to all the organization account, your personal account, or your Bitbucket account. So in that case, how we can manage it? So there is a smart way of doing it. You can manage it, and you can upload the different SSH keys to these GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. And how we do it? So whenever you see any repository, what are the different ways to clone any repository? When you try to clone any repository, what you do? Either you do HTTPS, SSH, or GitLab CLI. Mostly we do SSH. In the SSH, for doing SSH, you need to first upload your SSH keys to the account. So let's say this is my GitHub account. What I will do is, if I have my brand new account, I did sign up and I created a simple repository, then how can I do push, pull, create branch, push the branch, create MR, create a pull request and all? After creating SSH keys, only you can establish a secure connection to your GitHub. So this is where you will do. You will add a new SSH keys. So in your settings, from here, you will go to your settings, and inside settings, here you will see SSH keys, add new SSH key, and here you will add any title, and you will put your public SSH key here. Okay, this is what you will do. But for that, we need to create 3 SSH keys. Okay, github.com for my personal uses, gitlab.com for my organizational uses, and Bitbucket. And how we can configure the SSH profile so that when I do a clone from the GitHub, it should be able to use that appropriate SSH key, because here I will be using a different SSH keys. Let's say personal tks.pub. So we need to tell SSH while doing a clone that, okay, you need to use this particular SSH key. So that is the important part here. Rest all it is simple. Here, let's say here it is org, and this is third party. You might have seen this kind of a scenario where you are actually working for different vendors, like in the freelancing stuff. Then you might encounter this thing, and then you need to manage to the SSH connections by creating a different public private keys using SSH. So this whole process is divided into these 5 steps. Create an SSH keys for all the accounts, add SSH keys to SSH agent which you are using locally, add SSH public keys to your GitHub account, GitLab, Bitbucket, and create a config file. So these 4 points are important. First, okay, I will create a 3 or 4 SSH keys based on, okay, my personal, my organizational, my third party, or other third party. So different SSH keys, and then I will start cloning the GitHub repositories from a different account. Okay, so how should we do it? I will just save this file, and here we will start doing it. So how to create a SSH file? This is the first step. create SSH files. Okay, so that is a simple command. Okay, I will create multiple SSH files for that. So how should we do it? First we need to navigate to your SSH directory. Okay, I already have some SSH keys. Okay, now I will just use this file. Okay, let's say I'm creating SSH for office usage, and my email for the office is this one. It is creating I'm not passing any passphrase. It is done. It has created one SSH keys with the name as, let me just check if it is created or not. And you can see these two files are created, one private key and one public key. Now I will create another for my personal usage. GitHub Tarun personal, right? I'm not passing any passphrase. Let's keep this empty. And then these are the files which are important. I'm talking about two examples here. Okay, GitHub Office and GitHub Personal. Now next thing is we need to add these to the SSH using SSH agent. So there is a simple command for that, SSH add -k, I think, and then you just need to pass your SSH. I think we are already in the current working directory, so I can just do GitHub, and this is SSH add. Okay, deprecated, so we just can skip this thing. Identity added, so your identity should get added. And then GitHub, there is another thing is GitHub Office we have added, so we'll talk about personal one. So both the identities has been added. This is the second step we are doing. And in the third step, what we need to do is we need to copy these public keys, and then so we have to, first of all we have added these identities using private key. So public keys are added with a .pub. If you see, these are public keys, and this is the private we have added in the SSH identity. Now we will just copy the public keys and we will start adding them to our GitHub account. And how we can do it? We can just use simply these commands, because copy should happen properly, right? So either you can use this command or you copy it manually. So I have copied this, and what I need to do is I will go to my SSH, and here I will do is tks demo, or I will just do temp, and here I will paste it. Okay, this is for the office one. I can copy the personal one. So make sure you are doing the right one. Okay, and then what did I do? Okay, it should be public key, not private key. Okay, now it is my personal one, and I'm adding this to my personal account. Add SSH key. This is a temporary. I need to use my GitHub mobile to add it. It's a two-factor authentication. So now we are good. I have added both the keys, temporary and this one. Okay, so both keys are added. Now I can start accessing the repositories. I can clone, I can do all these things. But before that, there is a third step, is we need to create SSH config. So the same thing you can do for the other one, like the office one. And let's say if you have a GitLab account or GitHub account, this is your office one, right? Let's say you have a GitLab or GitHub or Bitbucket, there you need to copy and paste it. So this one is my personal GitHub projects, and here I can do security SSH keys. I will go to the settings. I think preference, there should be option where I can add SSH keys. So this is, let's say this is for my office. Okay, I can add a new key. First of all, I will delete. So you can delete if that has not been used recently. And this is, let's say I'm using for the private, for the office one. So I can add a new key. And that's it. Expiration, you can also set expiry here. Let's say December. I'm not going to use it for long. It's temporary. Add a key. So this key has been added. Now there are two keys you have added. Okay, now what I will do is what is the third step? Third step is adding SS configuration. So we need to tell whenever you are doing a clone, how would we know that you need, while doing this clone, which is because GitHub doesn't know where the repository is. This repository may be on the your personal or maybe on the your organization one, because what happens is here the domain is different, but there may be a case that you have your office one is also on the GitHub or GitLab. This is also your office one. In that case, because the domains are the same, how do we know that which SSH key you need to use while doing cloning? Because SSH key is the primary thing that will allow you to SSH to that GitHub repository and clone that repository and pull out all the other stuff. How do we know? We need to actually create alias using SSH config, and same alias we need to use as a host name. So currently we are using same host name, github.com or gitlab.com. So we are trying to create alias something like this: gitlab office. Here I will say GitLab personal, and wherever we are using the domain to in the clone repository URL, we will use these names alias, and these alias we will map in the config. So let's take a look onto that. Okay, so here we have done this step, and then now the third step is, the last step is creating the configuration. So that is nothing but an SSH config you need to create inside SSH. So I will first talk about how that look like. Let's create any random file. It's just for demo. We will so what this file is talking about, it is saying is, if you want to use github.com maybe for your office, which is using this Tarun office as a public key or private key identity file, this is the private key which is on your local system, then you would be using hostname as .com Tarun office, because you already know that, okay, I'm cloning a repository from my organization project or my personal project. So you will be using the appropriate names, github.com Tarun office.com. okay, this will be your host name, not github.com/. And if you are using for personal, this will become your host name. For personal, it will be using this identity file. Okay, this is just a simple, because I already have my SSH keys and I don't want it to corrupt it. Let's say I will show you how it really look like in the real. So we are opening SSH. So here, if you can see my organizational private key, obviously I'm not exposing anything, everything is on my system. This is my personal GitHub TKS Sharma. Or here, if I wanted to clone the repository from my organization, I will do Gitlab Mercans. And here Gitlab FS, just a third party, my own projects, personal projects, I will do it something like this. So what I was talking about is, you just need to configure it like this. And let me talk about this configuration in the detail, what this is talking about. Okay, I didn't save that file. Now if you wanted to add a third one, what the third one will say is, okay, I'm adding this for my GitHub third party. Obviously for that I need to have, okay, Tarun third party here, and here github.com, maybe everything is on github.com. let's say here I will be using party. Okay, so I need to create another SSH file, I need to configure it. Now once this is configured, while cloning the repository, you will be using host. Let's say I'm using a third party repository to clone, which is obviously private, only I have access because I have uploaded my public key there, and I have added identity of that private key, private SSH key on my local using SSH agent, SSH add, which I have already done. So I need to just use this host name. So when you do the git clone, let's say if I wanted to clone this repository, what I will do is, this is the clone repository, git clone. Okay, I will just save this thing, Control C, I can save. Now if I do, let me just go to the repository git clone. Here what is the host name? Host name is a github.com, but here the host name will change. Host name is not github.com in our case. Let's say if it is my personal project, then you will use the same host name which you have added in the config file. This will become your host name. Now when you are, because it's a git command, git will say, okay, you are trying to do SSH using this host name, let me get your private key and public key. All the communication will happen, and then it will allow you, because you already have uploaded your public key to the account, so it will allow you. So I mean, I didn't configure it, I was just showing you the demo, but this is how it will happen. If you are using your office one, then this will become something like this. You will just change this personal to the office one, and I guarantee you this works really fine. You just need to configure it something like this. Okay, this is very simple setup, and this is really required when you work with the multiple repositories of different accounts, and you are doing SSH, you are doing cloning using SSH. Then how you can manage the different public private keys for these different accounts. Okay, thanks everyone. This is all about how you manage the different accounts on the same system.